Thank you. Warm welcome to the audience over here. Thank you for taking time out to be with us. Thank you to the august and esteemed panel for being with us. I'm gonna start. This is going to be an exciting afternoon. We have some amazing panelists. We have you can say the cream of the lot, the titans of the industry with us. And we would like to start the questions with a very, very young and a very, very maverick person. And his name happens to be Mr. Roshan D. Silva. Okay, almost filmy kind of a name. So the other day I was speaking to Roshan, and something very interesting. Before I introduce you to him formally, you should know that he's an amazing person, amazing human being. And I called him in the evening to ask him certain things, and he was driving at 180 kilometers per hour on his car, and he was very coolly answering it, almost as if he was meditating. And I said, Roshan, where are you going? He said, I'm coming from my plantations at Bangalore with coffee, and like he's growing pepper. I said, I thought you were in real estate. Where did coffee and pepper come from? He said, yeah, ye to main side mein thoda aisa kar deta hu. Anyway, so heartening to know that you have varied interest, Roshan. Really nice, and that's a very cute smile that you're sporting right now. Appreciate that. And I would like to also tell the audience that this man is a very, very unique man. As a matter of fact, the other day I encouraged him to go on the Guinness Book of World Record. Hard to believe, he has started FOHO. FOHO stands for fractional ownership. The amazing thing about FOHO, fractional ownership, is that you can join Roshan's FOHO offer by paying through cryptocurrency. Can you imagine? Minimum $100. I mean, isn't that amazing? So I told him, I mean, how many people? I don't know anyone in 17 years of my real estate experience, having an entry point through cryptocurrency. So Roshan, I'm telling you, take it seriously. 1,500 people all over the world, over 50 countries are watching. Your idea will be stolen in 2 minutes. Do it now. Great. Roshan is also amazing person. He has the distinction of creating sales, marketing, management of holiday homes and holiday villages in multiple geographies such as India, Southeast Asia, Australia, parts of Europe, parts of United States, a cumulative 8,000 holiday homes. Roshan, to make your CV very simple, next time I should recommend that you should just write, besides Antarctica, we have holiday homes everywhere. So there you are. That's our amazing, maverick, and energetic Roshan for us. Roshan, I have a question. Your first question, please. I would also humbly and respectfully request the panel, to keep their answers maximum to 180 to 200 seconds, and I can ask you more questions later on also. So here comes the first bullet, Roshan. What are we seeing in terms of the surge in demands for the Indian consumers with respect to vacation homes and gateway homes? Do you see a surge? Do you see a stability? Do you see the demand going up? How is it working out for the vacation homes segment?
Yeah, we've seen this, Kaizad, not just in India, but across the globe. So I think everybody's seen this trend. Post-COVID, everybody has realized that, you need to have maybe another place where you can stretch your legs, be closer to nature. We've seen that both on the sales figures of holiday homes, and, whoever I think could not sell prior to COVID has managed to sell all their inventory post-COVID. Secondly, we have seen a real large surge in the number of bookings. In fact, today, even my team, we joke that even if the initial booking comes for 1 night or 2 nights, pretty much as soon as they arrive, people are negotiating for 15 days, 20 days, etc. So, you're because of that, you've seen a huge jump in the income from these vacation home properties. And, the only difference I could say is that that maybe the properties which were architected or designed prior to COVID were designed as a vacation home, and during this lockdowns and the past 2 years, people have really been using them as their primary homes. So we're seeing a lot of real estate developers fighting for revisions, filing for larger floor plans. So the 2 BHK has become a 3 BHK or a 4 BHK, etc. But this segment has been exciting, and our counterpart has already gone IPO during the post-COVID, which is Airbnb. They've now stabilized at a very high multi-billion-dollar valuation. So it's great. I mean, I think this is the shining star in the whole real estate space.
Should we warn Airbnb Triple is coming? Watch out.
No. I think they are one of our largest partners. Triple is a manager of vacation home communities. We sell through various third-party OTAs, including Airbnb. So, we are one of their largest strategic partners across the globe. And we are very happy to have that relationship with them.
Beautiful. Synergy. Well done, Roshan. Thank you for crisp and amazing answer. Very nice. Mr. Neeraj, you are the head of the KPMG, and you have helped KPMG form the strategic initiatives, the risk advisory initiatives, You have traveled. Starting from Hong Kong to Taiwan to the Southeast Asian countries, you helped build many financial initiatives for KPMG for real estate. Also, very something interesting I'd like to share with Mr. Neeraj. He also is a national leader of the supply chain and realignment for KPMG. Is an insights leader and a risk expert. Mr. Neeraj, this is one thing I didn't know about you when I spoke to you, but you also happen to be an angel investor. When I read the word angel investor, I always wonder that in case the angel investor does not get the returns that he's expecting, do they still remain angels? That question you can answer me later on separately when we meet. Yeah, but interesting. And Mr. Neeraj personally is a big fan of architecture, of old architecture, contemporary architecture, and also he gets his energy from people and is an extremely team-driven, extremely positive person. Mr. Neeraj, coming to your question, I would like to ask you: demand for housing has improved considerably this year. How do you believe and how do you feel that luxury housing and affordable housing segment? How do you think they will shape up in the near future? May I have your views, please?
Sure. Thank you, Kaizad, and pleasure to be with you today, along with Pankaj, Roshan, Farook. Thank you very much for this. Always great to be amongst friends. So, in terms of what we were discussing just a while back, and Roshan mentioned on it from a vacation home perspective, clearly the fact that all of us have seen pandemic has kind of focused everyone to see that how you can basically upgrade yourself around it. So while we have seen always that there was a lot more new buyer which was coming in, and we saw that in the affordable housing segment more and more, but and also luxury segment we were continue to kind of see good flows coming in there. But in terms of clearly there has been an acceleration that has happened wherein a number of people at a middle age and also young millennials also who are looking for a better lifestyle themselves, which is where the new products which are coming up, including from a perspective of whether it is HNI, whether it's ultra HNI, all are looking forward to looking at a second, third home, fourth home kind of a perspective, and also looking to see that how the overall lifestyle can be improved around it, and which is where the the multiple developments that have happened also are supporting that case significantly as well there. I think clearly in terms of when you look at the housing sales as well in the major markets aspect of it, the luxury market constituted almost like 21% in 2020, but in the previous quarter that we've seen, the housing sales on the luxury side have increased. So we are getting now almost like 30% plus are coming from the luxury market perspective, and demand for whether it is within the city in terms of a high luxury apartment over there, or whether it is to larger plot size, whether it is in terms of an upgraded farmhouse perspective, or from a vacation home perspective, whether it's from a beach perspective or a hillside home around it. So that is where more and more growth is happening at the current time, or demand is coming up there. And also in terms of when you look at the the perspective that this will get further boosted as well, with the economic expansion that is happening. So as the economy grows, the positivity in the economy would continue to fuel more demand as well for luxury to happen, because real estate, like always, it's a very large investment for anyone, and for that perspective to kind of come through, the security of the economic environment and the growth in the economic environment is a very big influencer on that. So that is something which we see continue to happen, and which is why you see that if you look at the real estate trend right now, earlier office space was the one for last 5 years which was really fueling the real estate overall around it there. So you saw almost like 240 million square feet of leasing happened in the office space, which is like 40% of the overall total office space. So kind of growth that you saw in the office space for 5 years, one would tend to see that that is a kind of a growth that one can see for the next 5 years for the residential real estate as well, if the economy has certain positives continued around it, and we don't have a kind of an event like the way we went through in the last year and kind of continuing as well from a COVID perspective there. So the real estate also, I think if you were to go back 2010, the first 10 years of century, we saw that Indian side, the investments on the real estate was significant. There was 60% foreign flows were towards the real estate side of it, on the residential aspect of it, and less on the office side. And in the last 10 years, from 2010 to 2020, it kind of flipped. You had residential really going down to less than 10%, and you had the office getting to 60% plus. I would think that there will be more balanced investments coming in the coming 10 years from a digital point of view, more and more there.
Beautiful. Thank you, Mr. Neeraj. Lovely answer. One of the best takeaways the listeners can take from this answer is that Mr. Neeraj has said, what drives growth? If you heard him clearly, he said security drives growth. And I totally concur with you, Neeraj sir. And a lot of security, a lot of transparency, a lot of clarity is bringing that security, and that security people are putting their money on the line. So that's something which bodes well for real estate. Also, congratulations. I saw you on the cover of Realty magazine, the $1 trillion dream, and your photo is right there. And I'm sure you'll be a big contributor to this $1 trillion dream of ours, Mr. Neeraj. All the best, and thank you very much for that. Yeah, great. Let's move on to our next amazing participant, Mr. Pankaj. Welcome, sir. How are you?
Yes. Thank you so much. That all fine. Everything fine. Yes.
Superman of the industry. So Pankaj is again having unique distinctions by himself, and I would like to introduce this maverick young man. I should say. I know Pankaj personally for the last 17 years, and it's amazing, Pankaj. Hats off to you. The kind of energy that you are carrying with you over the last 2 decades, and the kind of passion that you have for what you're doing, it's really noteworthy and praiseworthy. I really genuinely salute to you out there. So for those who don't know Pankaj, I'd like to introduce you. He is the owner and founder of Liases Foras. It's a non-broking independent entity which gives outlooks to people like lenders, to construction companies, to people who want to do a kind of a risk assessment for where to buy property, where the market will grow. That kind of information. He provides data for that. He's actually the pioneer in India for doing that. Actually, we should be proud to have him on our panel. He's also influential in the Residex for the National Housing Board, the information of that. Mr. Pankaj is also member. This is another unique distinction. Mr. Pankaj is member of the Central Advisory Council for RERA. That's a really hefty responsibility. And Mr. Pankaj is responsible for something which I've never heard in my life before. It's called the magnet theory of price projection. If anybody wants accurate price projections, the man to go to is Mr. Pankaj. He will share with you the magnet theory of price projection, and also another model which is called the urban price setting model for developers, and also an automated evaluation for real estate, or automatic evaluation for real estate. So there's no like objectivity in that. It's very scientific automatic evaluation. Pankaj, amazing. You're ever evolving, and good to see that. I'd like to shoot you with your first question, Pankaj. How big do you foresee? How big do you foresee the Indian real estate market to be? What are your views? Are we going to grow rapidly? Are we going to grow steadily? How is it going to work?
Absolutely. In fact, if you were to see the demographic setting, and recently I've gone through a report which was carried out by the Technical Advisory Committee on behalf of Niti Aayog, which really projected how the demographic setting of the India is changing. So what it suggests that by 2031, from 10 years from now, we are going to be touching close to 1.48 billion people. But what is further to be seen is that we'll be shifting, and major sections of the population will be shifting in a bracket which is an eligible consumer, which is a buyer for real estate, the age bracket between 25 to 55, close to 46% of the Indian demographic which will be falling in that. So if you consider the kind of the growth in the populations and the need for housing, I did my assessment that if you look at 2031, we'll be requiring close to 44 million more houses in order to cater, not considering the current prevailing shortage in this, which is close to over 1 crore houses. So there would be additional 44 million houses needed during this period. And if I go by Neeraj's point of view, and I completely believe that India is going to grow close to 9% GDP growth rate. So there would be an appreciation in property prices. So as on date, the India's production for housing is standing close to 12 trillion rupees, which is $160 billion. And if you consider the 9% cumulative growth over 10 years, and if the demand of 44 million to be produced, the growth is slated to grow 3 times. So I'm saying that what is my current level of demand is going to be 3 times of what is going to be in next 10 years time. So there's a very huge landscape available for the growth when it comes to the Indian real estate market. and in that sense, and largely because we have got very, very interesting phase of the time where a lot of demographic of India will be in the cusp, which will be buying real estate markets. Couple of other things like the fertility rates in India is reducing, the family size is reducing. So you may not really require very large homes, but having said that, you would still be requiring more number of homes. So demand looks to be there, going big.
Pankaj, if I was a private equity investor, I would have just opened my bank locker and put all my money right wherever you would tell me to put it. Like, that's so encouraging for all of us. And this is something new. After being in 17 years in industry, I today realize that fertility rate and all these things have an impact on the real estate demand. That's something new I got to learn today. Thank you for that. 3 times X demand. Gentlemen, whoever is listening, ladies, whoever is listening, mind what Mr. Pankaj says, and he he's always bang on the top. He rarely goes wrong. 3 times more demand, 44 million new homes demand, and 1.48 billion population, lower fertility rate, more nuclear families, more demand for homes. Brilliant. It all fits in. Beautiful. Thanks, Mr. Pankaj, for that amazing and encouraging answer. A warm welcome to Mr. Niranjan. I'm sure he can hear us, and everybody's saying hi to you, sir.
Hi, how are you, Kaizad? How are you?
Very well, sir. Thank you.
Mr. Bansal, nice to have you. Mr. Mahmood, Pankaj, Roshan.
Hi.
Nice to meet everybody up.
Niranjan sir, thank you so much for taking the time to come to our conference today.
Thank you, Mr. Haspraj. My apologies for being late.
No problem. I would like to advise everybody that Niranjan sir has been speaking on our conference and gracing our events for the last, I think, 10 years. And he's been so kind to accept my invitation. I will move back out. I will please continue the discussion. Thank you.
Okay. I'm asking you a question, sir. Should developers have high expectations from NRI markets? A lot of Indians are considering buying homes in markets like UAE, in London and US and everywhere else. Should it be a cause of concern for us, Mr. Farook?
The first part of the question, I think Indians have always been buying properties. The largest community buying properties in Dubai right now, UK, and I think the 4th largest in US, if I'm not mistaken. And 65% are industrialists and businessmen who are buying this. Various reasons. One is, getting a green card or, the EB5 program with the US. So if it's European, you're getting a second passport and things like that. But I wouldn't worry too much about Indians buying overseas because this brings in more value to India. And I see money coming in more to India right now because of the exchange rate, dollar-rupee parity that's on right now. I personally feel that this is a positive mood and people are investing a lot of money in India. The first home that they're buying is always back home in India. And they're always looking at investing money apart from that into different spheres of the business. I mean, the piece of pie is really large. And as you're aware, the highest taxpayers in the US are Indians and even in the UK for that matter. So there's plenty of money available and Indians are investing a lot in India. So from that perspective, I would say that we shouldn't worry too much. There's plenty of money in India itself. If we can deploy that money is more than enough.
Beautiful. Lovely. Thank you. Thank you for that assurance, Farook Saab. Really nice to hear that. Thank you so much, Farook Saab. I would like to now introduce the icon and the doyen of the industry, Mr. Niranjan. Although you don't need any introduction, but we are right now in 50 countries with more than 1,500 people. So I'm sure there must be a few handful of people who don't know you. So for their benefit, I'd love to introduce you, sir. Mr. Niranjan is a co-founder, as everybody knows, most of us know, he's a co-founder and managing director of Hiranandani Group. He has also recently established Hiranandani Communities, a globally renowned and the man behind redefining the skyline of Mumbai. I mean, which person who is in real estate has not been in awe of what Mr. Niranjan has created in his communities? Considered as a czar of Indian real estate, legend, born in 1950, 71 and going strong, 29 years away to the century. And I'm sure we may or may not be there, but I'm sure he'll be on hundreds of more webinars going forward. That's our dua to you, sir. Mr. Niranjan has enriched vast experience in policy framing, in township development, and he believes that sincerity and commitment with consistent efforts are the reasons and the recipe for success. Sir, highly inspiring, no matter what. I would like to ask you a very amazing question, actually. would you like to? It's a choice. You are, free to say no. Is there anything positive you would like to share with us on this meeting which you had? Just a little impromptu question. Can we hope for something?
The meetings are always very promising, because what has happened is, if you notice 3 things which have happened in the last 5 years. Number one, we've got affordable housing of ATIB, which has given 80,000 crores by the central government for affordable housing through the country. Never happened before. ATIB is also a tax-free status for those who make affordable housing. Again, that is an unprecedented, it's never had a precedent to the extent to which it has happened today. Third, the interest rates have never been so low for so long a time, which is less than 7%. So that's a very big thing. And the last, which is a secret I'm going to let out today, is the fact that government is seriously looking at rental residential housing as a serious investment platform, along with whatever is happening in commercial. So the policy has already been put up by the Housing Ministry. Now we are trying to persuade the Finance Ministry to put in some fiscal incentives in the next budget, so that can be done, because the ROI in terms of residential is lower, much lower than commercial. So the investments to international investments is low. So what we are trying to this thing, but this is a secret which I'm telling you. I've never told this before to anybody.
We won't tell anyone, sir.
Yeah, only 1,500 people. Yes. Okay.
So sweet of you. Sir, I want to ask you the question which I had designed to. Thank you very much for parting with this information. I've seen from last 17 years, I'm a small kid in front of you, sir. But from whatever I know about Mr. of the Hiranandani group, is we have seen you evolve from buildings to townships to communities to you're going to data centers, you're going to warehousing, you're going to office spaces. You are building data centers. You are constantly evolving. What drives this evolution of yours? It's so amazing. Even after 71, you're evolving. You are like a startup, I can say right now.
I think basically I get bored by doing the same thing all in all. So just to keep myself excited and happy, I love to do new things.
Brilliant.
And that's one. But secondly, there is a huge amount of opportunity in the Indian market, which was never there before. So there was no such thing as data created to the extent it is. The GST coming in, we stopped the octroi nakas, the roads, national highways, 35 kilometers per day is being constructed. All this put together is going to change warehousing. You're going to get A-gate warehousing. You're going to get e-commerce. So that's the second business, which looks very interesting. The third is energy. India lacks energy completely. And the least polluting in the petroleum line is gas. So we are putting up a gas terminal, which has been put up, the first floating LNG terminal in Jaigarh. All these are exciting. But I also do a little bit like Rustomjee does, education. So I have 14 colleges, 6 schools, 2 hospitals, and a skill development center. But, I don't know what I'm going to do next year. But one thing I'm certainly doing, which I can share with you during the lockdown period, is that I've learned the salsa and how to jive. So I love to do new things. I've never done the salsa before. I've never done the jive before. So I've also done these 2 things. What I mean to say, it's so lovely to really do new things which you have never done in your life. And God has given me 71 years. And if he gives me 71 and a half, I like to do something more, I hope, which will surprise Kaizad and the rest of you too.
So it's so beautiful, so inspiring to hear you. It's amazing. Everyone's going to join salsa classes, I think, after this seminar. Go. Fabulous. Hats off to you, sir. Hats off to your energy. Very nice. So there is Mr. Hiranandani. He just starts a new industry just for the fun of it. How amazing is that? I'm going to do a second round of questions, but I humbly request the panel. We hardly have 10 to 12 minutes remaining. If you all can just answer in 120 seconds, fatapat, then we can come back to Mr. Niranjan as well for the second question. So Roshan, I'm shooting you a second question as crisp and as amazing that you can answer it. What changes are you seeing in the behavior of income-seeking real estate investors, like families? Are they going for the residential, like Mr. Niranjan said, are having the low yields, or are they going to go for offices, or are they going to go for HNIs? Institutions. Which sector do you think is going to see the action?
So I think coming from our position as trip pillars, and we advise some of the largest family offices, HNIs, etc. We are seeing that a lot of people have taken this opportunity after COVID to sell assets like warehouses and things like that, where the capital investment is very small in comparison to the land value, and to cycle into hotels, resorts, which are going at a deep discount. So a lot of the opportunistic larger investors we feel have been using this opportunity to buy properties where they're buying it at the present cap rate, and they expect that the occupancy and the operating income will improve significantly with time. That's the opportunistic behavior we have seen from the big guys.
So good. Thanks, Roshan. Thanks for the tip off. Appreciate that. Mr. Neeraj, I'd like to ask you your second question, sir. Indian economy is on track for a rebound, and it's a very heavy rebound as we have seen right now. Sharp rebound. 2 waves of pandemic hitting back hard. How do you think this will impact the real estate, and do you see this rebound continuing to go? How long will it carry on the momentum?
Thanks, Kaizad. Clearly, in terms of we've seen that the economy has shaped up very strongly, and the second wave that we got hit, given that we had localized lockdowns happening around it, that in a way has certainly helped. That the numbers that have come up as well, 20% increase over last year. Last year we had a nationalized lockdown during the same period, a very very extended lockdown, and at the current time we had more localized lockdown. I think the mood of the country and mood of the people, I think there is a strong positivity which is coming up as well. The fact that the patterns are part of it, whether you look at it from a automotive perspective, whether you look at it from the FMCG industries, or the anything which is about to do with consumer lifestyle part of it there. So there is a lot of demand which is coming up for that, and we see that the real estate, like I was talking in the section also, that it is a large investment. So for anyone to commit to that large investment, there is a need for that positive environment to also get built up around. While there is a need, but the positive environment is supporting on that. And as you see that the government also currently with the like this national asset monetization program that has just been launched around it, some of these measures would also go in a way to kind of give much more injections, if I may call it, from an economic growth perspective. And what we discussed earlier, Niranjan also said, the data centers part of it, warehousing aspect of it, since everything is going digital, the requirement from these sectors which are not there earlier, that much. So that will also fuel the demand for more office space, more residential space as well, and also in terms of the newer age real estate requirements as well, like flexible office space. We would not have spoken about it 5 years back, but today like it's doubling, and it will continue to build more. Co-living as a concept, was not something that we would have discussed so much 3 years back as well. But now something which is a very, very strongly and also evolving growth concept for that. So there are many sectors which get fueled with this thing. And, the improvement of the investment climate that the government has done, with the policy, also kind of helping there. So private equity money, we saw in the first quarter also, like how it got fueled there. So we look at almost like $8 billion of investment to come through in this year is an estimate there. So that is something which will again a very positive side for it.
Beautiful. Thank you, Mr. Bansal. Sentiments do drive growth, whether it is real estate, whether it is gold, whether it is any segment. So that's positive. Know that real estate is also experiencing that positive sentiment, and it will have the trickle effect everywhere. Nice to know that, sir. Thank you. Farook sir, I would like to ask you, are you envisaging, Mr. Farook, are you envisaging a rise in property prices and new launches during the festive season going ahead?
Yes, I think the new bookings that are going to come are going to be more expensive because the cost of construction is shooting up, raw material is shooting up, so the cost of labor is shooting up. So my personal take is the inventories in the market are low price at the moment in whichever city you take. If you take Bangalore, there's a little bit of a pile up of inventories in certain markets and certain things. So if once that stock evaporates, from my perspective, the projects that are going to be launched are going to be much, much more expensive because cost of construction is a lot higher than what it's going to be before. Whatever you take, apart from the GST and things like that, if you're really looking at it, I personally feel that it's easier and cheaper to buy today than buying tomorrow. So whichever part one is investing in real estate, today is a cheaper day to buy than in future. This is my take on this whole thing. And as the festive season, as you're talking about, really has nothing to do with home buying, but it's an opportunity to create a marketing opportunity to push housing sales so that people who are fence sitters, get enamored or taken by this particular scheme to say that, yes, we'd like to buy a property now. But one of the most important things is buying a home for an individual. And I think anytime buying a home and owning a home is a priority in one's life.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well said. For all the listeners out here and for those who will listen in the future, please, it's one basic thought. Inflation is a one-way street. It just goes up. Cost is a one-way street. It just goes up. It rarely reverses. If inflation is going to go higher and cost is going to go higher and demand is going to go higher, how are prices going to come down? Logic. Don't be swayed too much by sentiments. Go with your logic. And this is the right time to buy. And whenever you need a home to stay, because it's priceless emotion, right time to buy is now. I totally concur with you, Mr. Farook. Thank you so much. Mr. Pankaj, Mr. Neeraj was talking about digitalization, importance of digitalization. I would like to ask you, how shall digitalization and utilization of data, because how utilization and digitalization of data, how will it help us to make a big leap into the brighter future? Managing the data.
If look at it, it's going to be a big enabler in order to meet the requirement of the demand, to fulfilling this particular demand. If you see in past also, when the financialization took place, but we did not produce as much as we could have, and largely because of the opacity in the systems, we were not getting the approvals in time. There were issues, there were lack of transparencies and many other things. Big amount of the rectification, bureaucratizations, and every other thing. The moment, the event we are onto the blockchain, once it gets implemented and the real estate adopts its full big way, it's going to really connect all the stakeholders to one single point. It is going to decentralize the whole system. And with that, you can do enormous amount of the things like, think about it, approval delays can be reduced. And if you see that the approvals in India can really cost quite a lot of it. The tokenization crowdfunding, which was really covered in the last presentations, if it starts really coming back, for construction finance builder can avail cheaper capital. So if you see that why India, we has a housing shortage, but despite that, we are talking about rising inventories, unaffordabilities. All these things are there because of the systems and the opacity. The moment digital data flow start really flowing through, everything is transparent. All these opacity will go away, and you will have a cheaper access to the capital. You can save time. The amount of time and money which gets wasted will get reduced down. Buyer will be able to get the house much cheaper. Builder will be able to reduce down their own cost. In the last 10 years and 15 years, if you see the cost of capital, if I consider the overall cost structure of a project, because of the slowdown in sales and all those things, my cost of capital is as high as 40%, 39%. My land cost is not a major cost, which we always refer. My approval cost has gone up. So the kind of a cost rationalization which is needed for the real estate sectors, I think this data flow and transparency, which will be connecting all these stakeholders, can really take place. In India, I also give you an example like, there are lack of information and coordination among various urban local bodies. There can be places where the infrastructure development has to take place. There have been several cases. Government gets into a bottleneck because one state agency has put in a blockage, has gone to the Supreme Court, not allowing the land acquisitions to take place. While when after the data flow is transparent and decentralized, everyone can see that. So at the time of planning, that what kind of encumbrances you are going to really face. You can bring the parties together. So all those kind of things, the efficiency which will come in that. So, and it's essential. Post-RERA, we have seen the real estate industry has grown and outgrown. It has earlier, although there's a talk happening that it has consolidated, only the big player and deep pocket player are the playing, but the data is suggesting differently because it has enabled the smaller developer for the access of the credit and all those things. Number of developers have increased. So I see that with transparency and data flow, you will see the real estate industry will be much bigger and will grow manifold from.
Thanks, Pankaj. Thank you so much. Organized data will bring in more transparency, more more security, and obviously it will bring the faith and the trust of the customers, which will improve the sales. Beautiful. It all falls in line. Mr. Niranjan, somebody put a comment over there. Salsa is fun. So, like, thank you very much. You are encouraging the people out there also. That's very nice to see that. Also, somebody was asking this question. I can't see it on my screen, but Safraz had put it up. Dilip had asked this question. And sir, Niranjan sir, everybody is complaining about cost of funds. Since you are just getting bored and want to go to a new industry, I humbly request you, why don't you go into finance industry and give us cheaper funds? That will be a nice, for all of us, it will be good.
There are two parts to cheaper funds. You have to understand one thing which I mentioned already, Kaizad, where the kind of NPA is the lowest, which is the home loan segment, you're getting it at less than 7%. It's the time which has come where we can assure the capital markets, the debt markets, that we will have lowest NPAs in our segment. Automatically, the cost of funds and the investment rates will come down. So let's say, for instance, commercial renting. The cap rate comes down to 7.5%, 8.5%, depending on the quality of the customer and the time frame which you're doing. So in reality, the money available worldwide for the purposes of investment is so much that you cannot imagine. Just look at the capital flows coming into the stock market. So what we really have to do as an industry, as a business, as a segment, is to create that same confidence in the borrowing that we do for the purposes of real estate. If we can give the assurance to this thing, for example, let's take some of the borrowers who are borrowing from the banks and financial institutions. They're getting money at 9% to 10%, while the private equity funds are going at 18, 21, 22, 23%. So you have a huge armada of rate of interest, right from 9% in terms of debt to 21% to be the cost of capital. So it depends on how we structure the industry, how we develop the industry, how we give confidence to the industry. And tomorrow, let me tell you, if you can even do foreign buying funds, I mean, borrow money in dollars and other things, we can get at 4% and 5%. However, the danger is, of course, the arbitrage in terms of foreign exchange, which would be that if the rupee falls, then, of course, the whatever saving you do in terms of interest rates will not take place. So the answer, Kaizad, is how we develop, we as developers, develop the industry, give confidence to the banker, financial institution and investment funds to be really to give us the money, and we have the ability to do. For example, I went to one of my persons from whom we had lent money on a particular project, and I returned 100 crores of rupees 8 months in advance of the amount due. This came because the sale has increased. It had nothing to do with my suddenly becoming wealthier. I didn't become wealthier in a couple of weeks. But the point was that I returned the money. Now, many of the builders would have diverted this money to other projects wrongly, and then got stuck with the other projects and been unable to pay at the end of 6 months or 4 months when it was due. So I think the credibility has to be built up for the real estate players, and automatically the cost of funds will come back into the whole thing, and this is going to be a range of funds which are going to really take place. So cost of funds can come down. It is actually up to the industry to do it. Now I'll tell you a strange joke. There was an industrialist who went to a bank, financial institutions, to borrow money. So they said, we will give you money at 14.5% interest plus 0.5% for whatever other fees. So it came to 15%. His peon went to the same bank for the purposes of a housing loan, and he got it at 7%. Plus, because it was affordable housing, he got a 3% interest subsidy. So he borrowed money from the same bank at 4%, while the big boss, his big boss, industrialist, was borrowing at 14, 15%. So look at the joke. I mean, if you can give confidence that even a peon and a clerk can get money from the same bank, and you don't even have to look at any other bank. So what is the answer? Just now, I think all the persons who talked about it, that, the markets are the right time to buy. Why are they buying it and all? Just now was mentioned by Farook. Pankaj also talked about the cost and other issues that we need to do and all that stuff. So all this, when you put together, if we systematize our entire activity in a manner by which we can bring credibility to the ultimate, all the stakeholders, the buyer of the flat, the contractors, the suppliers, the funders, all the stakeholders should actually get satisfaction. You are actually a kind of a, what do you call a maestro or the symphony orchestra that you run. But the responsibility is to take care of all the 100, 200 stakeholders that really do it. And I promise you things will happen in a much better manner. So I'm not worried about cost of funds. It's going to come down if we are properly structured and we do it over a period of time, not necessarily today.
Beautiful. Well said, sir. Well said. Control the greed. Lalach pe mat pado. Be content with what you have. Return the money on time and everything will be hunky-dory. That's the basic message right now. Roshan, a lot of questions coming to me on is cryptocurrency a valid currency and what are the legal aspects of investing in FOHO. For want of time, I may not be able to have you to answer, but maybe Sarfraz can catch you up with all these questions. A lot of people ask.
Yes, I think Niranjan sir has to leave for another meeting. So there's a very small question by Mr. Dilip Udawat. I would request Mr. Sir to just be brief on it. Sir, what is your perspective on new age technology of peer-to-peer financing in the real estate industry?
So technologies are definitely going to come. Like for instance, shuttering materials over a period of time have changed. Other methods in terms of paints and other things have happened. Lots of changes are taking place in technology. However, the real secret is to be able to do mass construction. We don't have enough volume of construction. If I had to make let's say the whole of Dharavi in one shot through an industrialized process, I could reduce the cost of construction of the buildings by 50% if we could do it. It could be an industrial operation and it can be done. But unfortunately, we do not get the scale like you get in China, and we do not get the scale of operation that we do. So the answer is technology is definitely going to come. We are going to benefit from technology over a period of time. However, the kind of benefit that we can ultimately come is going to be mitigated by the fact that we are not able to do scale. So that's one answer about the whole thing. The second is something which Pankaj touched, and may I add on to what I said. The blockchain technology that he's talking about is something which is going to reduce the cost of operations and ultimate transparency that Pankaj just talked about. But today we don't even have land titles, correct? Forget blockchain technology, which will relate to automatization and connectivity with every aspect of transactions which take place in real estate. Fix the titles. After buying, my brother bought a plot in Hyderabad, which was from the government of Hyderabad or some agency of that. The title of that property was ultimately found to be false by the High Court of Andhra Pradesh. Now, can you imagine? The titles are not known to the government themselves. Forget any other person. So it's quite shocking. So while, yes, we need technology, blockchain and all these things, but the basic story of transparency in terms of land titles, in terms of course, RERA has definitely benefited the entire change in terms of transparency and documentation and other things for the end customer and for everybody else. But we need to do a lot more in terms of what is happening. So I'm sorry, I'm just leaving for Dubai and I have to go and get some additional, rapid test at the airport earlier before leaving. So I need to be excused, but I'm delighted to hear. And if you are recording the rest of the matter, please send it to me. I'd love to hear my friend because they are giving such good inputs. Neeraj, Farookji, Roshan and Safraz, Kaizad, thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.
And all the other
thank you, sir. Lovely having you on the show. Lovely having you on the show.
Thank you,
You
sir.
can please excuse yourself. Thank you very much for being with us. Thank you, sir. Thank you. The next one is to Roshan. Roshan, we have a question from Harish Achar Brahmawal. He wants to know how can the online real estate marketplace can use blockchain technology to list properties. and how transaction fees can be achieved for the advertiser?
Yes. So, I mean, as Mr. Niranjan said, there's the land titles itself, which many countries are now converting to the blockchain. But what will happen now? I mean, that is a very complicated problem for India. However, if you see FOHO, and I'll advise everyone to go to fohocoin.com, and there's something called the white paper there, and download it and go through it, etc. It'll share with you. We recently concluded a very successful IEO, which is very similar to an IPO in the stock market. This is a IEO, which is the initial exchange offering, and we are publicly traded. So this basically, the FOHO ecosystem connects the trillions of dollars which are presently in the crypto economy with the real estate economy globally. We have outlined in great depth. So we are what we call a decentralized REIT. People can participate, and they, in a traditional REIT model, it's a trust, but the manager of the REIT essentially decides where to put your money. In the FOHO model, it's a decentralized REIT. You decide which assets. So you pick and choose from among the various assets that are listed on the marketplace and decide where to invest, where the REIT invests your money. And then all the people who are participants in that particular asset, they then vote for various governance functions. So including, changing the manager, disposing the property, making capital investments, upgrades, etc., etc. So, I mean, it's a much more transparent, much more agile world. And, I mean, I can't go into a great deal of detail because, of the paucity of time, but, I think other speakers and my co-founders also doing a session. But, I would encourage everyone to go to fohocoin.com and check out the white paper. We've given quite a bit of detail and color on that there.
Thank you, Roshan. I would like to thank all the panelists. We are very much short on time, so Kaizad, I would like to close the panel now. Thank you, Farook. Thank you, Pankaj. Thank you, Neeraj. Thank you, Roshan.
Thank you, Farook. Bye, everybody.
Thank you so much for moderating the panel. So, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Take care. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, gentlemen. Bye-bye.